Hi everyone, Wilbur here. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about pedagogical content knowledge. I want to discuss what it is, why it's important, and how we can improve it. So what is pedagogical content knowledge? Pedagogical content knowledge is just the amalgamation of content and pedagogy. So it's that intersection. And it was first described in 1987 by an educational researcher who's fairly famous in educational researcher terms, called Schulman. And that's the way he described it, that special amalgam of content and pedagogy that is uniquely the province of teachers, their own special form of professional understanding. And PCK is pretty much what teachers are good at, right? So in content knowledge, an expert might be someone who has a PhD in that field. So for example, if you're talking about physics, an actual physicist has the best content knowledge. If you're talking about pedagogy, a lecturer in education, or even a recently graduated education student, they know almost as much about pedagogical theory and educational theory, and their knowledge is much more recent than most teachers. However, this domain, PCK, is where teachers really shine compared to other professions. So this is what sets them apart. This is the area that grows with experience. Now, what do I mean with experience? When you're starting off as a student teacher, all you're concerned about is, how do I teach? As you get better, you start getting more specific. How do I teach grade 10? Or how do I teach math? Continuing to get better, how do I teach grade 10 math? And then how do I teach grade 10 algebraic concepts to students in regional Queensland? And then it might become, how do I teach grade 10 algebraic concepts to a class of academically gifted students in regional Queensland, knowing that they'll have to cover discrete algebra next year, right? So in each of those phases, and there are obviously sub-phases and things like that, the teacher slowly becomes more specific and slowly becomes more effective at teaching that particular piece of content to their particular group of students. And that's essentially what sets out a effective teacher from a experienced teacher. So John Hattie once said that the difference between effective teachers and experienced teachers is experienced teachers and effective teachers, they know all the same things, right? So they both know how to plan a lesson. They both have the same knowledge of pedagogical strategies. They both might have similar content knowledge, that sort of thing. But effective teachers are much better at using the knowledge that they have to plan their teaching sequences. So they're much better at saying, for this very specific piece of content, pretend it's chemistry and I'm doing titrations and these are my students, how can I best teach to them? Now, this is just a summary of a few of the studies done. Unfortunately, they're all done with mathematics teachers, and the reason for that is it's easier to analyze student achievement data because it's usually more numerical. That doesn't make it more accurate, but it's easier in the studies when they're doing the analyses and that sort of thing. But they found that teachers who have better content knowledge tended to produce higher student achievement. Teachers who had better pedagogical content knowledge also had higher student achievement. However, teachers with better pedagogical content knowledge trumped teachers that only had better content knowledge when it came to student achievement. Only pedagogical content knowledge out of these two had an impact on the quality of instruction as well. So students preferred those teachers and those courses more than just teachers who had better content knowledge. Higher general pedagogical knowledge had higher ratings of instructional quality compared to the other two. So better content knowledge produced students with better student achievement. Higher pedagogical knowledge had higher quality of instruction, which would have had better student outcomes as well. But better pedagogical content knowledge had both. So how can we improve PCK? There are several ways, and this is a non-exhaustive list. You'll be able to think of your own ways. But one way is observing teachers more skilled in the strategy we're trying to learn to use in a real teaching setting. So most of the time in teacher PD, a teacher who's really good at a specific strategy or is really knowledgeable about a specific strategy will stand in front of the other group of teachers and explain it and how it's used. But most of the time, that explanation is much more practical for most teachers when they can actually see it being modeled in an actual classroom. Okay, so important to go get those observations in. Networking and professional forums with teachers who teach similar content than you, so you're able to discuss how you're teaching particular concepts, how specific pieces of content for specific groups of students are best taught. Reflective practices is one of the more important ones. So as we said, you naturally improve PCK over time. So if you teach the same lesson this year compared to next year, you'll be better at it next year. It's just slightly more refined, much better. But one way you can speed that up is in reflective practices. So I just taught a lesson on this. This part of the lesson worked. This part of the lesson didn't work. How can I improve next time? So nice and simple. And it just allows the teacher at the end of the lesson or week or whatever to go back and consolidate in their head what worked and what didn't. So a variety of experiences. This is a big one, diversity of experiences. Studies show that teachers who have better PCK tended to be teachers who taught a greater range of students. So what I mean by that is teachers who teach rural and then in the city to a group of students who struggle with their literacy, and then to a group of students who are more academically proficient, to a whole range of students with different disabilities, tended to be better just because with different students, they then try and teach using different strategies, and then that helped them improve their teaching in general. Or you could improve content knowledge or pedagogical knowledge separately, and most of the time that will have some indirect effect on PCK. So if I want to be a better maths teacher, if I improve my ability to do maths or more advanced maths, it'll help me in my instruction. Same thing with pedagogy. If I learn the newest educational theories and neurosciences of education and things like that, it'll tend to have some indirect effect on PCK. So that's all for this video. I wanted to keep this one nice and short because this is what all teachers, tend to be good at. And this is really nothing new. 1987, this first came out. Most likely, a fair amount of teachers would have heard of pedagogical content knowledge at this point. So thanks for watching.